Once a blue blood, always a blue blood? Michigan hopes so, because they certainly haven't played like one in a long, long time. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the Citrus Bowl, Michigan, Alabama. So Michigan came into the game with 962 wins. They left the game with 962 wins all time, still number one all time in college football, but they're looking over their shoulders at Ohio State, Texas, and now Alabama, which with a win ties Texas, which won a game in the Alamo Bowl against Utah just the night before. So Alabama stays tied with Texas at number 3. All right, to the here and now. Like, comment, share the videos, and subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Alabama way too much for Michigan. It was 35-16 final, but it was a competitive game until about 6 or 7 minutes left in the game at 21-16. Jerry Jeudy, best receiver in college football? Probably. NFL first-round pick? Probably. Decided to play in this quote-unquote meaningless bowl game. 85 yards on the first play of the game from Mac Jones, burning Daxton Hill, a very talented player for Michigan, but Jeudy would go on to set a career high with 204 yards receiving. That's an Alabama bowl high as well. Shattering the record of Ray Perkins. Ray Perkins, the head coach for the Crimson Tide in the 80s. Caught passes for 178 against Nebraska in the 67 Sugar Bowl. First kickoff of the game after the Jeudy touchdown. Giles Jackson for Michigan, a brave soul, brings the ball back out of the end zone, and I was like, no, this is a stupid thing to do. But he actually went 50 yards with it and set up the Michigan offense in great shape. The first play from scrimmage for Michigan on offense was a telltale sign of things to come, as Shea Patterson missed Nico Collins down the right sideline. Nico had gotten a step or two on Josh Jobe. Shea Patterson would continue to miss guys downfield. And aside from the 7 or 8 throws downfield that he consistently missed, he didn't throw or hit on any of those throws. He played a pretty good ball game, actually. I am not being facetious here. Shea Patterson, aside from the 7 or 8 throws out of his 37 throws, threw the ball well, ran well, had to face a difficult pass rush at times, but he just kept missing downfield. Now, these are not high percentage throws for anyone, but when you miss on 8, and we're talking about 8 in which he wasn't heaving down a prayer. Guys were open. For college quarterbacks at this level, they were open by a couple steps. And he missed 8 of them, and he missed all of them long. He fired the ball 5 yards too far almost every time. You would think that he would adjust to that. I don't know if anything was said to him on the sideline like, Shea, you've missed on 3 of these. You're long every time. Give your receiver a chance to outfight the DB and high point the football and make a play. 17 of 37 on the day. There was good and bad. This is Shea Patterson, who he is and what he's done at Michigan, and I guess at Ole Miss as well, even though the games weren't as high profile and less people saw them. Good and bad from Shea Patterson, especially against these better defenses. But this is not a vintage Alabama defense by any stretch. They showed a graphic during the game that this Alabama defense has given up more rushing yardage per game than any Crimson Tide defense going back to the late 90s, and certainly the worst rush defense under Nick Saban. His first year was 2007. The Michigan run game started to get it going with Zach Charbonnet, carried 13 times for 84 yards. Hassan Haskins proving to be a very capable back once he was put into the mix against Illinois, ran for 61 yards on 18 carries. Shea hit on a flea flicker to Donovan Peoples-Jones that jump-started the offense. They moved it on the ground. They mixed it up well. They used varying sets and formations, one of which produced the touchdown to tie the game. Nick Eubanks on a jet sweep action was the tight end on the right side, got lost in traffic, made it out to the left. Shea Patterson just dumped it off to him for the game-tying touchdown. Michigan place kicker Quinn Nordine had quite a day, 3 for 3, hit a school record 57-yarder at the gun of the first half to put Michigan up 16-14. Michigan might have been up 16-7, except there was a bad call. Bad call on an unnecessary roughness, late hit call on Aiden Hutchinson. let these guys play football. These defenders, whoever's blitzing a quarterback, let's take that defensive instance in particular, whether it's a linebacker, defensive lineman, safety blitzing, whomever, a defensive player rushing the quarterback. Okay, this is big-time competitive sports. They've got to be going full throttle. They can't try to time when the quarterback's going to release the ball. They have to go until the quarterback releases the ball. Then they're supposed to have 1.5 steps because you can't stop on a dime. What we are asking these defensive players to do these days is impossible. So Aiden Hutchinson's coming after Mac Jones, and he gets his 1.5 steps, and he hits him, and he wraps him up. He hits him kind of high, but there's no headgear involved, doesn't hit him up near the neck area. It's just a high hit, just wraps him up. 3rd and 10, Michigan defense should have been off the field, but no. It converted the drive into a first down. A couple plays later, Najee Harris converts to make it 16-14, actually 14-13 Michigan at that point, but Michigan comes back with a field goal. Okay. And Najee cut loose in the second half. After that first Judy touchdown, and aside from this roughing the passer late hit call on Hutchinson, Michigan's defense played well in the first half. But again, Najee Harris carried it in to make it 16-14. He finished 24 carries for $136. Second half, again, Michigan's defense. Don Brown is probably being lambasted by Michigan fans all over the planet right now because that Don Brown defense, again, left coverage guys singled up with the best wide receivers in college football. This time, Devontae Smith burns Lavert Hill. Like Daxton Hill, he's a top-notch player, one of the better players in the Big Ten, if not the nation, at his position. 42 yards for a touchdown, 21-16. Alabama took the lead. They outscored Michigan 21-0 in the second half. Mike Bernier, the Alabama punter, pinned Michigan inside the 5 twice. Ali Cajo partially blocked a punt that only traveled 19 yards for Michigan, so the special teams turned Alabama's way. Ronnie Bell has been a clutch player for the most part. I know the Penn State play in the end zone, but has really been a productive player for Michigan, let me put it that way. Had 2 huge drops for Michigan in the second half. One was on a play that would have given Michigan first down at the Alabama 25. The other one would have been a 3rd down conversion around midfield and kept a drive going. So 2 drives killed by Ronnie Bell drops. Michigan did move it down to the Alabama 25 and to the Alabama 30, but they got shut out in the second half. More Jerry Jeudy, 2 consecutive plays, one 14 yards and another 56-yarder, set up the Miller-Forrestall tight end play right down the middle. Nobody around the guy. The defensive back for Michigan got sucked up in traffic, and they were covering 2 Alabama receivers with 3 guys, including a running back actually over there, and Forrestall was just standing in the middle of the field by himself. Catches the TD to make it 28-16. Michigan's efforts to come back in the last few minutes were pathetic, to say the least. Shea Patterson and Nick Eubanks miscommunicated on a play. Patterson expected him to run the out. He ran the out and up. Shaheem Carter picked off the pass. That was Michigan's last chance at 28-16 with 5 minutes left to play, 2-score game. Bama scored with 26 seconds left. They could have knelt down and finished off the game at 28-16. They decided to go for it, continue to run plays, and Najee Harris ran for another touchdown to make it 35-16. Michigan linebacker Cameron McGrone took some exception to this when asked about it after the game and said it was kind of like a smack in the face. We can argue back and forth as to whether teams should be kneeling down when they have cemented a victory and go the classy high road route and just take their victory and go home, or you play to the final whistle and just continue to play, especially when you're running the football. I have no issue with either stance, actually. I would tend to kneel down and go home with the victory regardless of what the score was and just go on from there. But these are big boys. They can take it. They should be able to stand up to it. Run the plays. Run the plays on offense. They're not exactly running trick plays or flea flickers to try to run up the score and put huge points on the scoreboard. They're running basic running plays. So stop it. If you don't like it, stop it. Alabama wins 35-16 over Michigan. The Wolverines drop to 9-4. Another disappointing finish for Jim Harbaugh, who always loses to Ohio State, 0-5. Now he's losing bowl games as well. Beat Florida his first time out at Michigan, his inaugural season in 2015, 41-7. Since then, it's been Florida State in the Orange Bowl, South Carolina in the Outback Bowl. Then they lost to who they lose to last year? Florida in the Peach Bowl, and this game against Alabama in the Citrus Bowl. 4 consecutive postseason losses for Michigan, and of course, when you lose to Ohio State every year, that means you lose 2 consecutive games at the end of the year. So national championship contention out the door sometime during the season for Michigan, and then it just kind of implodes from there. All right. Alabama will play USC in another neutral site opener in 2020. They've done this now 9 consecutive times with much success. Alabama's beaten their neutral site opponent 8 consecutive times. Now, the last 2 were softies. Duke, 5-win team this year. Louisville, 2-win team last year. Should not have been scheduled, not been played. But the previous games were against some really good teams, like USC that won the Rose Bowl in 2016 with Sam Darnold at quarterback. Of course, Alabama beat Max Brown in the opener and beat him like a drum, 52-3. Their other wins during this stretch of neutral site games: Florida State, Virginia Tech, Michigan, West Virginia, and again, Duke and Louisville the last 2 years. Also beat Wisconsin in 2015 as well, as I recall, 38-17. Michigan opens at Washington with a difficult assignment against one of the better programs in the Pac-12. Your thoughts on Michigan? Your thoughts on Alabama? Of course, the Crimson Tide expects to be in the playoff. This is a down year for Alabama, but still 11-2. I will rank them extremely high in my college football playoff rankings. That actually makes sense at the end of the year. For Michigan, they finish off at 9-4. Alabama gets its best win in regards to a ranked opponent with this one. This is the only one. Alabama's best win to date was against 7-5 Texas A&M. Let's talk it up right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.